Welcome to WANCast, the official podcast of the Women's Affordable Housing Network. This is our space to connect, get real, and talk about what's really happening in housing, from bold leadership to resident stories that ground us in purpose. We're here to amplify voices, strengthen each other, and share the kind of conversations you'd have with a friend who gets it. Because when our voices are amplified, our communities grow stronger, and so do we.
Welcome back to WANCast, the podcast of the Women's Affordable Housing Network. I'm Ashley Northcutt, President and CEO of WAN, and today I'm joined by my co-host, Angie Truitt, our VP of Communications.
Hi, Ashley. Hi, everyone. We love using this space to highlight leaders who are making an impact in affordable housing and showing up as true allies in our industry. And boy, do we have one for you today.
Isn't that the truth? And if you've been around this industry for any length of time, chances are you've heard someone sing the praises of today's guest. We're so excited to welcome Glenn Hopps, CFO of R4. Glenn isn't just a respected financial leader. He's also one of the most admired people in our field for his leadership, allyship, and the genuine kindness he shows to everyone that he works with.
Glenn, we're thrilled to have you on WANCast today, so welcome.
Thank you so much. That was an incredible introduction. It's certainly not the one that I get when I come into the office in the morning.
We'll help you with that.
Yeah, R4, are you listening up? This is how Glenn would like to be welcomed. And you all missed amazing conversation before we hit the record. So Glenn's always a fun time to talk to. And Glenn, coming from the accounting industry, I always find it exciting to talk to someone with so much personality and so much fun going on in his life. Your accounting team is both highly skilled and uniquely diverse. How do you approach leadership in a way that creates space for everyone to thrive, that you were able to build such a diverse team where everyone feels welcome?
One of the best things, one of the great things, and there are many great things about R4, but one of the great things about R4 is we're always stretching into different aspects of affordable housing, whether it's tax-exempt bonds, whether it's preservation, syndication. We're always growing. We're always adding new assets, and it always creates tremendous opportunity for accounting. And it's such a great place for people to see a company that's really thriving and growing. And one of the things I really believe in is I never hire above people. So if you come in at an entry level, you're now part of my family, and I'm going to grow. You're going to grow with me, and I'm not going to hire somebody above you if all of a sudden there's a lot more work. I'm going to grow you. I'm going to mentor you. I'm going to build you, and you're coming with me because you're part of my team. You're part of my family, and that is one of the reasons why we have an extremely low turnover rate in the accounting department, because people know that they're going to be treated well.
And I know that when you and I first started talking about your team, Glenn, I was floored by that no turnover on your team. People are very loyal to you. You make it a great place to work. You obviously make them feel seen. You give them opportunities to develop and grow. And that's incredible. And I loved how you shared that many of the people on your team might not have looked on paper like the ideal candidate, but you saw something in them and you loved something about their story. And you said, I'll teach you the accounting side. You're just going to be a valued member of my team. And I can tell you're a good human being. And I absolutely love that. So tell us a little bit about what values guide you when you're managing and supporting your team at R4.
Well, before we leave the first concept, I just want to add, when I was at Centerline, we hired a woman, and on a personal level, I liked her, but professionally, she was late all the time. She would forget things. Her immediate supervisor just kept telling me how unhappy they were with her. And eventually we wound up letting her go. Fast forward like 5 years later, and I'm in the subway, and this person comes up to me and she gives me a kiss, and I have no idea who she is. She says, "You don't remember me? You fired me. You changed my life." I said to myself, if a nice guy like Glenn can fire me, it has to be me and not him. So I went back to school at night, and I finished my accounting degree, and now I'm a tax manager, one of the largest accounting firms in the nation, and I owe it to you. And let me tell you something, you don't think that you're going to make somebody's life better by firing them, but once in a lifetime, if it happens, I mean, you're like, wow, she was this person who I had no idea who they were, remembered who I was, and told me that I made a fundamental change in their life. That was incredibly gratifying, even that they would recognize me and share it with me, which was just blew me away. But that felt great, as you can imagine. But anyway, tell me your question again, Angie.
What values guide you when you're managing and supporting your team?
Always be kind. Always be kind to people. Praise people often. Praise people in front of other departments. It's so important. If you have to criticize somebody, you should really have a high threshold for any criticism to begin with. But if you do it, it has to be one-on-one. It has to be over the phone, not speaker, or if it's going to be over Zoom or something like that. I mean, it has to be private. It has to be somewhere where the rest of the team is not going to hear you saying, how could you make that mistake, or how could you do that? Everybody makes mistakes. We're human. We make mistakes, In my mind, I'm always thinking everybody is trying to do their best. There's nobody on the team that says, you know what, I want to screw this up so Glenn gets yelled at today. Nobody says that. And keep a high threshold on mistakes. Have a short memory. Forget it. Somebody made a mistake on Tuesday, forget it by Wednesday. They're human. We're going to make mistakes. Give chances. Show people trust. Say, you know what? Every once in a while, I'm going to let you handle it. And you handle it. You roll with it. You give it to Mark. You give it to Jason. You give it to the senior level people. You can CC me or you cannot CC me, but they are going to learn that I have a lot of great people just besides me. And they're going to start to rely on you. And what's more empowering than that? Saying, people trust me to do important things. And again, just to go back to olden times, back in 1993, when we closed our first tax credit equity fund, at the time our CFO was looking for somebody to do the accounting for it. I happened to be working late that night on something else. And he walked through the hallway. He's like, hey, Glenn, you're still here. You want to do the accounting for our new tax credit fund? And I said, yeah, sure, Alan, what the heck? That's how I get started doing these funds. By the time I had left, we had 110 funds, I believe somebody reminded me, and something like 1,400 properties. But his words to me, which I still remember every single day and which guide me, are run it like it's your own business. And if you screw it up, we'll yell at you. He didn't say we'll fire you. He didn't say we'll kick you out. He didn't say we'll replace you. He said we'll yell at you. And then we'll forget it. And that's the guiding principle of my management style. And I owe it to my CFO. It really did.
Glenn, I love your stories, and I'm over here giggling because when I was at CohnReznick, I feel like you trained me on that, and we didn't even know each other at the time. But when Glenn Hops called from Centerline, all of CohnReznick shut down until Glenn got what he needed. But I love how you touched on, I think good leaders, they all trust their team and they're good people inside. That's how you become a good leader. Like, you want the best for everyone. You think everyone's trying to do their best. Like you just said, no one's like, how can I mess up today to get Glenn yelled at? And I just wanted to share one story about you, because similar to the girl on the subway, I have not kissed you and I won't be kissing you because I respect your wife and my husband. But I met you, Glenn, because I had started at a new firm and we were going up to New York, and I had looked up some people and I was like, Glenn Hops, I remember that name. I'm going to reach out to him. So we did not know each other, but I reached out to Glenn and asked, hey, do you want to grab lunch with me and a couple partners? We're doing this new firm and would love to tell you about it. And Glenn was like, yeah, sure. So my favorite part of that, though, and you have been so impactful, I tell this story a lot. I introduced you to my senior partners, and they were two men, and we had an amazing lunch, had a lot of fun. And from that day forward, you called me every time. And that doesn't sound like a big deal, except that's not common. Where like once you introduce to, a more senior partner, or maybe you feel more comfortable talking to men, the person that made the introduction kind of sometimes gets left out. And until the day I left accounting, when Glenn needed something from my firm, Glenn called me. And that's just a huge show of respect. It kind of exhibits what a great leader you are in that, and giving me the chance even as a younger partner. So I always appreciate that, Glenn.
It's kind of the answer to one of the later questions, but I always say this thing: look through the resume and into the person, and try to look into the heart of the person. And when I met you and the other two people who I don't remember their names offhand, but I think they may have been former Resnick employees. They kind of seemed a little bit like not absolutely thrilled about being there, but you seemed like you were. And I couldn't even tell you how many cost segregations I threw your way. And, the thing about it is opportunity arrives and opportunity can be taken advantage of or opportunity can be ignored, right? And Ashley, every single time I threw something to her, she turned it around quickly. She exceeded my expectations and, the numbers were where we wanted them to be. And after a while, although I knew that Cohn Resnick had a huge cost segregation practice, I was dealing with Ashley every time I needed a cost segregation. And I was telling all of my developer clients, use Tidwell, you will not be disappointed. And they weren't disappointed. And probably, other than historic deals, probably every property needs a cost segregation at some point. And I really think that you and I built out a nice revenue stream for your company just by really a somewhat random introduction. And I think that's a wonderful story.
I do too, Glenn. No, and yes, and I appreciate all that opportunity. We definitely did build out a great practice. I learned a lot from it. We also got to enjoy some baseball games together and some late time with the families. So that was always fun, Glenn. I appreciate that. So building on this, the technical demands of being a CFO and the strain of that, we all know. Sometimes I call Glenn, he's like, the 15th is next week. I'm going to call you back. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot. How do you balance those demands and that stress with the people-centered work of nurturing a team so they want to continue to show up and do this work?
And I thought about this question quite a bit. And I keep coming back to how blessed I am to have Maria in my life. I hired Maria. I don't know if I should get into the data, but yeah, I am an accountant. She was 26 years old when I hired her in 1997, and she's still with me today. Meaning that her and I have basically worked shoulder to shoulder longer than half of her life. And along with Maria, I have Audrey, and Audrey I know since the late 1990s. I have Andy, who I hired in 2002, when I believe he was 22 years old. I might be a little bit off on the numbers, but what I'm trying to say is those three people are amazing, incredible industry experts who've been doing this for a long time. And people that I can rely on, people that have been doing quarterly and annual deadlines for most of their lives. So it's worked its way into our DNA. Every single year, tax laws are changing. We're sunsetting depreciation. We're not sunsetting depreciation. We're making historic credits over 5 years. We're getting rid of energy credits. We're getting rid of solar credits. We're adding state credits instead of soft money. It's everything all the time. And I don't know about you, but most people, when they go to college, or at least when I went to college, they studied incredibly hard for a test. They left it all on a piece of paper, and they completely forgot anything related to what they had studied the day after. And it's almost how tax season can be sometimes, because it's such a fire drill. I mean, I'm here 9 to 9 or 8 to 9, or, and I stay in the city sometimes because I'm like a dog chasing after their tail. I'm working till 10 o'clock at night and I have to be back here at 8 o'clock in the morning and sleep, and commute 2 hours each way to my house. I mean, it's crazy. It's the challenge. And I don't have to worry as much about the corporate side. I don't have to worry about the preservation side. I don't have to worry about the multifamily, the tax-exempt bond side. Because I have Maria, because I have Audrey, because I have Andy. But that's the reality of my job. I mean, that's the bricks and sticks of it.
Glenn, thank you for reminding me why I'm so happy I'm no longer a tax partner, especially with the upcoming year of tax changes. But I am super excited for everyone about the 100% bonus depreciation.
I am, as the only non-accountant on the call, I'm going to pivot just a little bit for a minute. But when you talked about your team, Glenn, when you and I first talked, and I know that you and Ashley have a long history and that actually your relationship is the reason that you and I know one another. So I'm super grateful for that. But when we first met to talk about a need you had on your team, one of the things that I loved about our conversation was when you were describing your team and the diversity on your team. So you have 10, soon to be 11. And out of the 10, soon to be 11, you have one guy, Andy, who you've been with a long time, who I've met, and he's a gem. But you told me that you have not only just women on your team, but women of color, and that, a lot of the conversations you've had with them, when you talked with Ashley about seeing through the resume to the person, that was exactly how you built your team. So let's talk a little bit about cultivating a team where representation and opportunity matter for everybody, because obviously that's a big tenet of what we do here at One, and why you're such a strong ally. Before there was an ally committee and there was an ally conversation, like you were just living as an ally to women, and especially women of color too, on your team. What role has mentorship played in your own career? And tell us how you're paying that forward with the team that you've built.
I can tell you that mentorship has made me the person that I am today. And it really starts with Mark Schnitzer, our CEO. Mark and I have worked together since 1990 or 1991, and we know each other a really long time. Mark is a master at being a CEO. He's extremely detail oriented. He gets in the weeds with every department: asset management, underwriting, fund management, the bond, tax-exempt bond. I mean, he's super detail oriented, and he's super smart. And he created this industry to a large degree. I mean, his hands are in everything, and that really keeps you on your toes, because somebody's watching you who at some point you kind of think you got it, but somebody's always watching you and saying, what about this or what about that? And it really sharpens you and keeps you sharp. And Mark, according to the story, when Mark was getting this company off the ground, David Resnick had played a part in the original creation of the company. And David had told Mark that if he was serious, he should really give me a call. And David said, I actually know where he works, because he works just down the block from you. And he also uses Cohn Resnick as an accounting firm. And it was an easy yes for me to say to Mark, it was an easy yes, because I know who he is. I know he's great at what he does. I know he's really smart, and I know he's very successful, and I know that he knows how to build a great company. And, I left the job that was a good job. It is hard being a developer. It's harder being a developer than it's being a syndicator. I'm sure any developer will tell you that. But it was like I said, it was an easy yes. And, when we first started here, Mark would say, my ambition is to be a little boutique firm and do X amount of business a year. And that flew out the window maybe 5 years in. Yeah, I mean, we're big. We're growing big. We have more employees probably than Mark could ever expect. And I mean, we've been successful beyond anything I ever expected. And I can't tell you how fulfilling it is to do this twice, because at Centerline, R4 Capital became Centerline. We started out with 0 funds. And in 1993, we did our first fund. And for 15 years, that's what I did. And to come here and not only do the fund accounting, but to be the CFO and touch every aspect of the company, it's been incredibly fulfilling. But to get to your point, is he, to a certain degree, is interested in who you hire. But to a certain degree, he's also hands off. And he loved the idea of hiring Maria. And I mean, Maria is beyond word fantastic. Andy was an easy yes. Audrey was an easy yes. And that was great. And his management style is something to be mirrored in a large degree. If you're doing everything right, you don't hear from him. And I feel that's the same way that I want to run my show. And I can sit next to Andy for an entire day and not say anything except hi and goodbye, because I know Andy's on it. He doesn't need me to look over his shoulder. But to me, Mark's been probably the number one mentor of my career, and I really admire him tremendously. But I do want to talk about, of course, David Resnick. When I started doing tax credit funds in 1993, I had an audit partner who was an amazing guy. His name was Les Canis. And he was wonderful. He came to my cubicle and he said, I'm here to do the audit of the fund. And I said, who the hell are you? I didn't call anybody to contact me. He said, the CFO told me I should come today and you'd be ready. I had no idea. But he also had a tax partner named Terry Kim. Terry, unbelievable, encyclopedic knowledge of tax credit law. I mean, just brilliant. And 2 brilliant guys who basically mentored me and dragged me through it and said, this is how you got to do it. And this is what you have to get done. And like I said, for it to grow at Centerline from nothing to 110 funds when I left. I mean, it was incredible amount of work. There was no automation back then. We had 55 accountants, including like 12 or 15 in India. We used to do the work overnight while we slept, and we would come in the morning and review it. But it was amazing. People faxing you tax returns, mailing you tax returns. I mean, it was the Stone Age, literally, and what it is today. And those guys, especially, you know, obviously Mark, Les, Terry, David Resnick, they're the reason I can do what I do today. And that's the reason why, although Ashley came to me and made a very compelling offer, I said, you know, my loyalty stays with CohnReznick. They're the ones who made me, to any degree of success that I have, the success that I am, because I learned from the very, very best. And at the time, you don't always see that, but I mean, I look back as I'm getting older, and I say, wow, you know, these guys gave so much to a young, disrespectful, brash kid, and never gave up on me, and that's amazing.
Beth Mullen, I did not try and take the CohnReznick work from Glenn. But I will give a shout out to CohnReznick, and I always love hearing David Resnick's name, but that was actually my first foray into affordable housing. But I found my husband there. My brother married a person that worked there. My nephew did a part of an internship there. So love CohnReznick. And David Resnick was my husband's mentor for a very long time, since he was about a first-year staff, and then actually encouraged him to start what he had done at one time. I wish you could draw the spokes of all the impact David Resnick had in the world.
Beth Mullen, she and I were amongst other people who were together on 9/11 in New York City.
Oh, no way.
Wow.
I think she was probably fairly new to the business back then, but yes, that was quite a day. And
Were you in the financial district? Where were you?
our offices were at 58th Street and Madison Avenue.
Oh, wow.
But, you know, Les was there, and CohnReznick was giving some kind of a presentation to the Centerline team that day, and we were all there. It was unforgettable. But my other side road is the first time I ever met David was at a conference in Sonoma. And David and I are similarly built, height-wise, hair. I don't know if he had glasses at the time. But he came up to me, kissed me on both cheeks. This is my second kiss story in the last 30
I
minutes.
was going to say, a lot of people kiss you, Glenn.
Anyway, he said, his first words out of his mouth were, "I love you. You're the best client we have. You always pay on time." Right?
Okay, that makes sense.
I put my hands on both shoulders and I pushed his name back so I could see his name tag. I had no idea where he was. Oh my God, David Resnick, our first meeting. So anyway, that's my two side roads of the esteemed people of CohnReznick.
Yeah, and I'm going to see how many more kiss stories come up before the
I
end.
know,
of the
Glenn.
podcast.
That's it. Other than my wife, that's it. Nobody else kisses me. I
It's like a
don't.
walking kissing booth over here, Glenn Hops.
You know, really, I'm laying it all out for you. It could be my autobiography.
We'll write it and see if we can sell it next. I met David in the Charlotte office of CohnReznick, and he taught me he had one of those old things. I can't even think of the name, not a calculator, but like an old thing that, oh man, what did people use back in the day?
Abacus?
Yes. And he taught me about that randomly in the hallway. And that was my only interaction with him because he was visiting the Charlotte office. So that was right before he retired. So Glenn, I love how you said how Mark has helped you grow as being a mentor because he knew so much and it kept you on your toes. So you always wanted to perform because you're like, what's he going to ask me next? Can you share an example of when you've seen someone on your team grow that really made you proud?
This question was so hard for me because I feel all of my team members have really extraordinary stories, but the one person who I kind of get a little bit emotional about it, which is embarrassing. But the one person who is just, to me, the most incredible story is Madilda. And I had gone quite a few years without hiring anybody. And I foolishly put an advertisement in LinkedIn. And I think 250 resumes showed up in about 40 minutes. Now, this is kind of like selling your car on eBay. There's probably only one bona fide offer in there, but there's 250 offers to go through. So anyway, person after person after person showed up. I booked them like every 10 minutes for like 3 days. And after 3 days of no. In comes this lady, Matilda, and she's dressed the way somebody should dress for an interview. She's polite. She sits down for the interview. She has one of those, I guess they call them folios, and she unzips it and takes out her resume, gives me a copy. It's beautiful. No misspellings, and I'm like, what's racking up here? And she hasn't even opened her mouth. And then, as like I said, we look through the paper into the heart. She tells me the story, how her family came here from, bear with me. They came here from Honduras. And she had a job in a factory. And I don't know if she was a bookkeeper or not, but she went to school at night and she got her bachelor's degree. And she decided she didn't want to stay at the factory anymore. And she saw this opportunity and she came and I don't know what you pay, but I'm sure it's more than what I'm getting paid now. I want to learn. I want to help you. I want to be better. And I mean, you could just see it in her face, and you could see that she wanted more for her family and she wanted more for herself. And, it was like, all right, the rest of the 200 interviews for today, they're all canceled. So anyway, I hired her on the spot, and she has grown so much. She's still 5 years later. She's like a sponge for information. She's unbelievable. She's always, I use the phrase polishing the apple, which is probably a lousy phrase. She's always making me look good. She does almost all the treasury work. She does almost all the accounts payable work. She does a lot of the payroll work. She's like my corporate right hand, and she's unbelievable, and she's a great person. And, I couldn't be more thrilled to have Matilda on my team. And I can tell you, in my career, there have been quite a few, and it's almost always been women who have said, you know what, thank God that you've given me the opportunity. I can't tell you how many places I've worked and I've done a great job, and they've never promoted me. They've never given me the opportunity. They've never said, you're at least as good as the man we're promoting. And, those stories are infuriating, right? I mean, running a business is about the people that are loyal and dedicated to you, rewarding those people. It's not skin color. It's not gender. It's none of those things. It's who wants to do the best. That's who you always have to have. And that's been what's guided me. And some of that comes from people like Mark, people like Les, people like David Resnick. That's how they do things. Right? I mean, look at Cohn Resnick today. It's so diverse. It's incredible. Right? And everybody gets an opportunity there. And that's what it really should be about.
Well, there are many Matildas of the world that don't get that first chance. And
it's so unfair.
And it is, but you have a gift, because you really do see people for who they are and the potential that they bring, and you give them the opportunity. So even the woman that you fired who kissed you 5 years later in the subway, I mean, you have an impact on people, but you can see who they are and who they can become. And then you give them the opportunity to do that, which is a perfect segue into the next question. What advice would you give leaders who want to be more intentional about developing the next generation of women and underrepresented professionals?
I have to go back to Maria. I believe first generation in this country. And her father was an accountant in the Dominican Republic. And when I hired Maria, I told her, you can ask me anything at any time. Just wait till I finish my first cup of coffee. And as soon as she would hear that cup hit the garbage can, she'd be in my office. She'd roll up the chair right next to me, and she'd have her pad, she'd have her pen. Sometimes she'd even have pre-written questions. She would ask me every day, show me how you do this. How do you figure out this? What is this? Every single day. She had the questions every day, weeks, months. Questions every day. She's in my office from 9:25 until lunchtime every day. Until one day she didn't show up. I had to go and look and see, maybe she was out sick. She had it. She was there. And she's been there, and she's run with it. And she's a powerhouse, and she's independent, and she's strong, and she's great. But just like people like Les and people like Terry and people like Mark gave to me when I was first starting out, give. If you want people to succeed, give them what you have. Give it to them. Give it to them free. You hire people you can see through to their heart, and you can find out and know that they want to be here and they want to do good, and they want the company to succeed. If you want to give people a chance, have an open mind and find those people who have heart and soul and who want to be great. And wanting to be great is more important than anything on your resume. And that's how I feel about it.
I just saw a video with Kendra Scott this week saying that. Glenn, are you familiar with her? She's a jewelry designer. She's pretty.
I have no idea who she is, but if she designs jewelry, I'm almost certain my wife knows her.
Yeah, she's very generous too, but she just got engaged to Zach Brown, the country singer, in case you're wondering, if you want to keep up with that. Not Taylor Swift and Travis, but this is another coupling. But she talked about how she hires for her as well. Like, you can teach people skills, right? And this example that you just shared about Maria is true allyship. It's someone who, if someone's willing to learn, you're taking time. If someone was in your office from 8 to noon, that means you're working those 4 hours later, right? But you're pouring into someone with the hopes that you care about this person, but also it's going to multiply in the future, which what it has. When you said all of a sudden she didn't show up, I thought she was sick. No, it clicked. And so now, not you don't have to do that. She can teach someone else. And she's also learned about a great leader in having you as that. And beyond that, since the day I met you, you are so complimentary of people that are doing a great job. You say people's name in rooms they're not in. You talk about their success, and it's enabled you to build a great team together because you do invest in your people and you cheer them on. You're a very strong ally. You're a very strong ally to Juan since the day I mentioned to you that I was even involved in Juan when I was still working full-time as an accountant. You have been nothing but supportive to Juan and to all the people in your workplace. What does allyship look like to you on a daily basis besides that? Like, how do you view allyship?
I think that environments are constantly shifting, right? And just today, I was talking with some of the people in our marketing group about what it was like when I was their age. And men were expected to wear suits and ties with vests and dress shoes, and women were expected to wear high heels and dresses. And certainly there is a comparison, but the bottom line is it really took a woman exponentially longer and was exponentially more painful for the woman to have to conform to the attire standards. And attire was almost 50% of the business relationship. If a woman didn't look the part, she usually didn't stick around very long. Most women worked in administrative roles back then. It's not like that anymore. We have women in almost every top position. We have Ali Schnitzer, we have Tara Nussbaum, we have Lindsay Soika. I mean, we have Ronnie Thielen, one of the most amazing icons in the affordable housing industry as a woman. I mean, she was breaking down barriers in the 80s and 90s. I mean, who's more incredible than Ronnie? And yeah, I'd like to think that, the Ronnie Thielens of the world opened the doors for all of these other people. And, it's amazing. Yeah, look at people like Emily Chaddick, right? These are amazing women, these role models. And you know what? If I can put a Maria as a role model, or a Matilda as a role model, or an Audrey as a role model, right? I can show people that not only do we hire women, but we promote women to executive vice presidents, right? And that doesn't happen everywhere. But walk the walk, talk the talk. When promotion time comes, promote them into high levels, right? Put them front and center. Let them run things autonomously of you so that people can see how great they are on their own, not that you molded them or touched what they did. Give them the credit, right? People know if they want to get the right answer and I'm not available, or even if I am, ask Maria. She's going to give you the right answer. Everybody here knows Maria knows what she's doing. What's better than that? So walk the walk. When you're hiring somebody, if there's a woman that fits the bill, bring her in. She's a woman of color and she fits that's allyship, right? That's building the next team of mentors. And that's what you want to do. I'm going to be 63 years old. I'm not going to be here forever. I hope a woman runs the accounting department after I'm gone.
You probably won't be shocked to hear you guys are still trendsetters in the industry. Ashley and I talk a lot about different organizations that we may not know as well as we know our four. And I can't tell you how many companies I've dug through, and there are still the majority of the women in their org chart are supporting in administrative roles. And so do take credit for the fact that even though we have made advancements since the 1900s, you guys are still setting the bar very high. And there are still leaders in the industry that aren't being seen the way you see them. And so that's why we love having conversations with you and seeing what you guys are doing over there to help elevate that. But I know we've talked a bit about this, and I want to get into some of the other cool stuff about you. You have a reputation for being one of the coolest CFOs, whether it's cheering on the Mets or quoting Mel Brooks movies. How does showing up as yourself influence your leadership style?
Thank you for saying that. I don't know how true it is, but it's nice to hear it anyway. But I think ultimately, I don't think anything is scarier than a tense, nervous CFO, except maybe an incredibly laid back, nothing ever phases them CFO. And I have to say, I've worked for both. There's a balance, right? I mean, ultimately, you have to be the person who can basically say, whatever happened, whatever went wrong, we can figure it out. And when I was at Centerline, I was not a CFO, but our CFO used to tell me very firmly, we've done everything wrong multiple times. So we kind of know now how to do it right, only because we found every other way to do it wrong. And nothing teaches you like mistakes. Nothing teaches you like failure, like I'm never going to do that again. That's part of it. Part of it is look at somebody like Mel Brooks, right? I mean, the guy's 99 years old, right? He's been through adversity. He's been through a rough life, but that man he's got a $1 billion funny bone. This hysterical guy, the way he looks at the world and the way he looks and the jokes and the humor that are in his movies. I mean, he's just, shouldn't everybody have that kind of a attitude towards life? You know, like life is God's ultimate gift, right? You should really savor it. I mean, it's like, it's the finest wine, you know, a beautiful sunset, a beautiful sunrise, a crisp fall day. I mean, there's so much to savor in life. There's nothing can be a fatal error, right? I mean, you're always going to be able to find a way to fix it. I think that's what makes a good CFO, that you've seen a lot of things and you remember them and you remember what went wrong and you kind of step in front of it so that you know that it's not going to go wrong again. I would like to think that Mark knows that about me. In my 35 years, he knows that, you know, we've had some bad things have happened, no question. I can't imagine anybody who worked together for half their life who didn't. But, you know, we've always managed to work it out and the company's always been very successful. But, you know, that being said, you can't build enough internal controls. I mean, you just have to be ready to roll with it. I'm not that's necessarily the question. But when it comes to baseball, I mean, being a Mets fan is the definition of knowing what frustration is. We always think we're going to be great. We always wind up being lousy. And, you know, I always call them the wet-nosed mutts. And I think everybody has a little bit of a wet-nosed mutt in them. And the headies touch their inner mutt sometimes and realize that in every, I've said it 100 times, in every building, in every floor, there's a CFO, right? In every building, on every floor, there's an accounting staff. You're one of thousands. There's successful businesses on every single floor and every high rise in Manhattan and all over the world. I mean, you want to think that what you're doing is unique and fantastic and incredible. What's unique is what we bring to people who really need it, right? We bring affordable housing, a better place to live, a better quality of life, a safer way to live. That's the value. And of all these floors out here, there's very few, I think, that can really say they do something that in their heart, they really feel is a humanitarian thing. And that's the difference in affordable housing. And that's why so many people stay in affordable housing. And that's why I knew Beth Mullen in 1990, and I know her in 2025. So many hundreds of other people, right? You know, the whole DOZ crew, a lot of the Novogradac people. I mean, we stay here because I think we know that at the end of the day, we're doing something really good for a lot of people. And that feels good. But that being said, the Mets, I mean, imagine a sport where you do the same thing 162 days in a row with an eye towards doing it even longer, right? I mean, it seems like the definition of insanity, right? So the best teams get to play in the playoffs, and then the division finals, and then the World Series. So if you're really good at what you do, instead of playing 162 games, you play 180. But imagine doing the same thing. I guess maybe that's what work is, but I don't know. To me, it just seems the grind or the repetition wouldn't be for me. Anyway, I hope I answered your question.
Glenn, your love of the Mets, and I'm a Yankees fan, you know that because we saw this game together. But when you talk about the 182 games, you didn't really account for those ones that are in 103 degrees that go on for 16 innings while you're eating hot sausage and peppers in the game.
Was that
But
your
I
game?
Yes, in New York, I went up for a refreshing weather, and it was not what happened with Glenn and his son Michael. But
But
real
wait,
quick,
you're leaving out
real
the best
quick.
part. We got to the ninth inning. It was 100 degrees, 100% humidity.
110 degrees or something.
And 4 people, amongst, I'm sure, thousands of others, were praying the Mets didn't tie it up. And at the bottom of the ninth, the Mets tied it up, and it went into extra innings. And here's the 4 of us going, oh, my God.
Just
They're either
Just
going to
end
win
it.
or I'm going to faint. One or the
just
other.
end it. Well, Ashley, I have known you for I don't know how many years now, and I never knew you were a Yankees fan, and this changes our dynamic pretty significantly. But I will proudly say, as an Astros fan, and I know that y'all hate us, but you guys haven't been back to the World Series since my baseball boyfriend Jose Altuve took the field. So I'm super proud of that.
We're going to let you have that. I'm not a diehard Yankees fan. It's a little bit different. I grew up with a bunch of Yankees fans, so that's my baseball team. I do live in Atlanta, so go Braves too. I'm
Well,
more
as a
into
diehard Yankee hater, I would absolutely wear an Altuve jersey.
Thank you. I'm going to send you one. It's on
You're
the
gonna get
way.
it in the mail.
You know I can get you one, Glenn. So I'll bring it to you when we come up.
Glenn, for your love of the Mets, do you see a connection between baseball and the way you approach building or coaching your team at work?
I had to laugh when I saw that question. Ultimately, it's about teamwork. And at Centerline, I used to have a huge picture in my office, and I didn't take it with me. And it was a picture of the Great Wall of China. And it said, many people, many hands, one goal, teamwork, right? And like every other team, we have our disagreements and our spats. And when you're under pressure, sometimes you're a little sharper than you want to be. And sometimes your emails are a little more pointed than they should be. And sometimes you forget to say please and thank you. But at the end of the day, we're a team. We know we're going to get it done. We know we're going to get it done right. We know we're going to make our investors more than satisfied. Jason, as we talk about often, Jason's the head of fund management and a diehard Yankee fan. And I can say with true honesty, I feel that the accounting team that I have is the New York Yankees of accounting teams, because I think every single one of them is an all-star. And I think they're great. The other thing is they know for a matter of fact that I'm not the manager, one of the players, just like them. And I would never, ever ask somebody to do something that I wouldn't do myself. And that's how I run the show. And I've always run the show since 1993. That's how it is. I've never asked anybody to do something I wouldn't do myself. And when I first started here, I used to do I printed the first check. I fixed the copy machines. I ran the post machine. I mean, I did it. I printed the 1099s. I implemented the general ledger software. I did everything. I was the only person here for several years. I know what every person's job is, and I've done it. I think that's important because I think they know that I have empathy for their job and I value their job because I've done it. Anyway,
When you think about your career and life so far, so this is a deep one, what are the things that keep you grounded and motivated? And I feel like when you said, I'm not the manager, I'm on the team, I wouldn't ask anybody to do anything I wouldn't do. That feels like a very grounding principle that you live by. But are there others?
there's a phrase that Mark has used for probably most of the 35 years that I know him. And he always used to say it, and it used to always anger me, but ultimately it's true. On December 31st, you're a hero. On January 1st, you're a zero, right? So you're always chasing after the next expectation, right? So it's August 28th. We finished all of our Q2 reporting. It's all gone out the door. And that's a monumental success. I mean, although it happens on time, every quarter since I've been here in 2012 until now, everything always goes out on time. Every investor gets everything. What they do with it, I have no idea, but they get it on time every quarter. And it's incredibly gratifying. But I can tell you with 100% certainty that Maria has already set up the Q3 workbooks. Maria is already updating July and August activity. Maria is already doing the pro formas for any new funds that we've closed in the third quarter. And that's her way. Maria is always a hero. Maria is always ready to go. Maria always has it. She runs her entire team that way. That's who she is. And Andy is chasing down the last of the partnership tax returns that are due on 9/15. We're going to have 100 tax returns come in between now and 9/15. And he's going to review every single one of them and say, I like it, but you need to change this or that. I have a few tax returns that are still going to come in that I have to still review and look at. Cohen Resnick told me today, you're in states that don't accept electronic filings. I'm going to be mailing boxes of tax returns to you that you're going to have to sign and bring to the post office. My post office hates me when I do this every year. They'll say, you can only bring in 8 at a time or whatever it is. And I'm the idiot standing in line with this box of tax returns, and these other people are mailing, an Amazon return or something. And they're like, I can't believe I'm behind this guy. And, you got to do it all. But then as soon as you file them, it's, hey, where's the tax projection for next year? What he said has ultimately become the truth, right? You're a hero the day you filed the corporate tax return, but the next day you have to have the tax projection for next year. And that's what it is. And isn't that what life is, really, ultimately? I mean, one great accomplishment, and then you save a couple of $1,000 and the water heater blows up. That's how life is.
I'm getting like sweaty sitting here thinking about deadlines. And, it's funny when I left how quickly you forget about deadlines, like 9/15 coming up. But I still get texts all the time, including 2 today, about people asking tax questions. I stayed in accounting, Glenn, so long because I was in the affordable housing industry, because like you said before, there's an underlying meaning to what we're doing. What gives you hope about the future of affordable housing and the people working in it?
One of the things I really loved about working at the foundation where I was before I came here was that I really got a chance to visit every asset, every year, every property. And I really got a chance to see, we had an extremely robust resident services program. And wow, resident services programs are eye openers. We had programs for senior citizens where they were doing yoga. We had programs for single parents and even, married parents as well. How to write a resume, financial literacy, how to not take a title loan, how to save money, how to open a bank account, how to write a check, how to do a bank reconciliation. And then programs for kids in the summer, right? They used to have a knowledge retention program because they would do studies and show the kids would forget so much stuff when they were off for summer break, and crime rates would go up. And it's incredibly rewarding to go to the sites and not think of it as just an economic investment. When I was younger, it was just an economic investment. But when I went to the development, we have a developer. He's a fine developer, and he's got a fine team. And he's based in Rochester, Minnesota. And we went to one of his properties, and it was like and I'm not going to be exact, but it was probably like 10 stories, senior building. And as we went through the building, every building had a different activity for the tenants. So the 10th floor had, lounge chairs and an 80-inch screen, and they screened movies there every day. The 9th floor was arts and crafts. The 8th floor was for when the grandkids came to visit, or there was, a party or something. The 7th floor was the library. And every floor had something else. And every time you get into the elevator, you go to another floor, somebody would say, wow, you're the people that invested in this building. This is an amazing building. And thank you so much. And most of these tenants' life hasn't been incredibly great to have the opportunity to do something great for somebody who you've never even met, but to know that you're doing something great for so many people. How gratifying.
Yeah. So I think we've already talked about a lot of this, but final thought, is there something that we haven't asked you, a final takeaway you want our listeners, other than, and I think we've heaped a lot of praise on you because we both really feel that way. I introduced Glenn to one of my partners, Kiana, who's a young recruiter, and she's getting just her first taste of affordable housing. And she mentioned in a team meeting how much she has loved working with Glenn.
So that was what she's known him, a month?
Yeah.
It doesn't take long. And Kiana, welcome to Affordable Housing. I'm glad Glenn was the first introduction.
I know. And
Wow.
she just said, he's so great. I love working with all your clients, but Glenn is the best. Even people that you tangentially meet, even people you don't work with every day, you have just a small interactions with here and there, you're leaving your mark. And,
Thank you.
obviously
That's
have on the
extremely
two of
kind of you.
us, but you just spread joy and good feelings. And that's why we're so excited to have you on today. Any parting thoughts, words of wisdom?
I will leave you with this parting thought. I had a prior CFO, and he gave me some words of wisdom, which I keep with me every single day. And what he told me was this: every single person you interact with is a customer. Every one of them is keeping a customer satisfaction survey. So you need to interact with every single person as if they are the most important customer to you. And those words have lived with me every single day. And of course, our investors are our most important customers by far. We strive to answer every one of their questions within 24 hours, whether it's sending them 200 pages of 3468s so they can finish their tax return, or information from the National Park Service so they can do their historic credits perfectly correct. And it's gratifying to have them respond to you and say, thank you for responding to us so quickly, but everybody's your customer. The person who was just hired, who has no idea how you do expense reports, every single person you interact with. We work with 70 different accounting firms. Every person that works at every one of those accounting firms, I have to look at it as a customer. Every developer we work with is a customer. You have to treat them like they are the single most important thing to you. And if you treat people well, in theory, they may treat you well back. There's no guarantees, right? But you know that you've treated them as well as you can treat them. And be kind to everybody, be nice to everybody, treat everybody like they are the most important person you're interacting with. Make their requests of you a priority, and make them walk away saying, you know what, that guy really, he took care of me 100%. Right? The other person that I wanted to mention was Jim Spound. And Jim came here maybe 2016, I don't remember anymore. But Jim and I have worked together at Centerline, and Jim is a great guy, and Jim is just an expert in his business, and adding the multifamily aspect to the equity providing aspect of R4 has just really made the company flourish. And Jim also works very closely with my son. My son is part of Jim's team. And I mean, Jim has been such a mentor for my son, and Jim's just a wonderful man. I can't say enough good things about Jim. He's terrific. Yes, he's one of the people that I look to for inspiration.
Appreciate your time. Love all your stories.
Me as well. This was an honor and a privilege. And
I was waiting for another kiss story, but I thought you were going to spring one on us.
Give your wife a kiss for me. I love her.
Ashley is boundless.
Absolutely.
She's somebody who says, I'm going to do it, and does it. There's a million people that say they're going to do it, and there's 5 that do it.
Thank you, Glenn.
You're living proof. You walk the walk, you talk the talk.
And Angie, thank you so much.
Yes. Thank
All right.
you.
All right. Well, it's been a pleasure.
Thanks for being here with us on WANcast, the official podcast of the Women's Affordable Housing Network. Every guest, every story, every listen helps us keep this space real, rooted, and resonant, and we're so glad you're a part of it. Big thanks to our guests for sharing their time and knowledge with us, to our sponsors for making this platform possible, and to you for tuning in, sharing, and helping us keep this conversation going. Be sure to follow, rate, and share WANcast wherever you listen, and bring a friend next time we save them a seat.